Have you ever had a hard time getting out of bed? You feel lost. You feel like you're always in a fog. You're depressed because you're overcome with feelings of purposelessness. You can be in the middle of the most stable years of your life, busier than ever, and still you feel like somehow you're not living up to what life has to offer.
For you personally, what kind of purpose do you have in your life?
That's a hard one.
I don't really know where I want to go from here, so it's something that I'm going to have to kind of figure out.
You know, we're just specks of dust on a speck of dust amongst other specks of dust.
I don't know, to actually say there's a purpose for things, it's kind of difficult.
The Bible shows us that if our life and work is built on non-ultimate, non-eternal things, those things are bound to let us down at some point. You can get fired or laid off of that dream job. Your most beloved family member can suddenly be taken from you. You could get hurt and no longer play the sports you love. These transient foundations we build our lives on aren't designed to sustain the weight that we put on them. They can't grant an entire life purpose end to end. We need an eternal foundation.
So I hear you saying that hopelessness is at the center of a lot of people's feeling sad and in some cases really downcast and even depressed. So what is something else that's at the center of all that?
A lack of purpose. Everything just feels futile. Everything feels meaningless. You know, you go through your day-to-day life and you do the same things over and over again, and at the end of the day, you just have this sense of, what's the point?
So if that's true, that so many people live without any purpose, or at least any knowledge of their purpose, and they kind of spend their life trying to seek that in Christianity, through the Bible, what do we find out about the purpose for every human being?
The Bible tells us exactly what our purpose is, which is that we were created by God, for God. It's in Him that we live and move and have our being. We were designed with a specific purpose by God, which is to glorify Him and to find all of our joy and all of our satisfaction in Him ultimately. And until we're on that path, we're going to continue to struggle with the notion of purpose, because in one sense, apart from God, life does not have any purpose.
Initially, what made you feel depressed?
Just not really seeing why you're doing anything.
I think just all of the change and all of the unknowns.
I just felt like I was putting a lot of work in and not seeing the results I wanted and didn't know what I could do better.
It's very difficult to find that purpose, and religion is a really good answer, and it's a whole lot easier than facing a potential void or just existential dread.
As a Christian, I find my purpose, in Christianity and, the Christ, He gives us purpose, shows us the meaning of life, and gives us really the true purpose of what life is, to be a light to others and to lead others to His light.
And you mentioned glorifying God and living for Him. What does that actually look like? I mean, those are kind of, I don't know, high in the sky type topics.
Yeah.
What does it look like to glorify God and do that kind of stuff with your life?
This is the reality for Christians. We've been called by God, the supreme creator and sustainer of the universe, to go out into the world and to do things that bring Him glory. And that's where we can ultimately find our satisfaction. We are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works that God prepared beforehand. With that in mind, that revolutionizes even the mundane things that we do, or things that we think are mundane. They have been infused with meaning because of who they're done for.
So let me challenge you on that real quick. What if I'm a stay-at-home mom and I'm changing diapers? Or, let's just say I'm a freshman in college just trying to get by my first semester. Does that really have purpose from God?
It does, and I would take it a step further to put it in biblical language. Imagine if you are a slave, a bondservant who has a master. Listen to what Ephesians has to say about that. Bondservants, obey your earthly masters with fear and trembling, with a sincere heart, as you would Christ, not by the way of eye service as people pleasers, but as bondservants of Christ, doing the will from the heart, rendering service with a good will as to the Lord and not to man. And then it says, knowing that whatever good anyone does this he will receive back from the Lord, whether he's a bondservant or free. That's a grand category. Whatever good anyone does, so whether that's the stay-at-home mom or the factory worker, whatever the case may be, if it's something that's done as unto the Lord, there's a promise here in the Bible that God will reward that. That gives our lives absolute purpose and meaning.
I first started to feel just overwhelming feeling of anxiety. I used to go to work, and I used to work at Chick-fil-A, and like people would pull through the drive-thru, and I would get like this really bad like butterfly feeling in my stomach, like every person that came through.
What if I have a really bad boss though, where my working situation's hard because it's just tough to do the right thing in this place? What about that?
Ultimately, it's not even about our boss. Because for the Christian, what we're called to do is to work as unto the Lord. So in one sense, the Lord himself is your boss. It's not even about your earthly boss, but it's about your heavenly boss who sees what you do and will reward those things that are done by faith in him.
God's eternal nature is the safest place to build your life. He's always loving, always in control, always orchestrating what's best for his children. But maybe you're not held down by feelings of hopelessness. Maybe you're down because you can't stop thinking about those things you've done in your past. Together, we'll look at what the Bible has to say about helping those who are haunted by guilt and shame. Next.